Voters casting their ballots in the runoff election now in Mississippi. Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith trying to fight the upset bid by the Democratic challenger Mike Espy. President Trump doing his part. 2 stops on Monday in the state of Mississippi.
I'm here to ask the people of Mississippi to send Cindy Hyde-Smith back to the United States Senate so we can make America great again. Your vote on Tuesday will decide whether we build on our extraordinary achievements or whether we empower the radical Democrats to obstruct our progress.
From last night, this morning, our headliner. Carly Fiorina, former Hewlett-Packard CEO and 2016 Republican presidential candidate. It's nice to see you again. It has been some time, and welcome back to America's Newsroom.
Well, thanks. Great to be with you, Bill, and good morning, Sandra.
Good morning.
You talk a lot about leadership. That's a big part of your professional and personal focus. How would you rate the leadership on behalf of President Trump over the last 2 years?
Well, I think President Trump has accomplished many of the things he said he was going to do, and leaders keep their promises. On the other hand, I think it's also true that leaders understand how they do things is as important as what they do, because leaders have to build support over time. And I think what we're seeing as a result of the midterm elections is that while President Trump's base remains solidly with him, he is not building support. He's not growing support. And I think over time, that puts his agenda at risk.
How does he do that, Carly, particularly with the female suburban voter? According to our Fox voter analysis of all suburban women, 57% voted for Democratic candidates, 38% for Republican candidates. How does the Republican Party win back that suburban women vote?
You know, it's interesting. We've talked about this before. In fact, we talked about this during the 2016 election. First of all, I would say that women are problem solvers. Women focus on solving problems because they need to solve a lot of problems in their lives and in the lives of their families and in their jobs. And so I think women focus very much on our problems getting solved, our results being achieved. It's also true that women care about tone and language, and women get concerned when the tone is divisive and the language is harsh. And so I would say that Republicans' policies so often lift people up, and Democrats' policies so often keep people right where they are, as Mia Love has famously said many times. But I also think that problems only get solved if you bring people together instead of dividing people apart. And tone and language can drive people apart or bring people together. And in the end, I think real leadership is about solving problems, not just talking about solving problems.
You got a lot of attention.
Politicians too often
You got a lot
do.
of attention out of California 2 years ago. You sound a little bit like you might be considering it again. Are you running? Do you have plans to challenge Donald Trump in a primary?
No, heavens no. What I am focused on is the same thing I've been focused on for many decades, which is what is real leadership about? And real leadership is not about title or position, although many leaders have titles and positions. Real leadership is about problem solving. Real leadership is about building support. Real leadership is about lifting people up and bringing them together, not tearing people down and driving them apart. Real leadership is about courage and character and seeing possibilities in circumstances, and also importantly, seeing possibilities in the people all around us. I ran for president in 2016 because I believe we need more citizen leaders. And on the podcast that goes live today, I lift up citizen leaders all across this country. Some you've heard of and some you haven't. Because I think we need more examples of real leadership and real problem solving.
And obviously, you are speaking from a role. You were the CEO of Hewlett-Packard. I believe you were the first woman to head up a Fortune top 20 company. When you look at what the president is doing, and I know you spoke a lot about this during the 2016 campaign, you talked a lot about China and the impact of China on our economy, on the global economy. The president's Wall Street Journal interview, he says this: the only deal would be China has to open up their country to competition from the U.S. What I'd advise is for them to build factories in the United States and to make the product here. Just want to get your thoughts as you have been watching the Trump economy and the president's policies play out, how you think he's doing there.
Well, first, I certainly agree with the administration that the relationship we have with China is unbalanced, more and more so. It's unbalanced from a military perspective, and it's unbalanced from a trade perspective. Where I would differ is, first of all, of course, China is manufacturing in the U.S. They've bought U.S. companies. I think it is time, way past time, for us to send strong messages militarily to the Chinese. President Obama failed to do that. And the result is I'm sorry, I'm hearing a busy tone in my ear.
Go ahead,
Anyway,
Carly.
the result is a situation in the South China Sea where we have a military buildup. It is also true that the trade imbalance is a problem. However, tariffs don't really work, and I think we're seeing that. When Ford and GM both say they're now having to swallow costs of $700 million to $1 billion, that costs jobs. I would rather see President Trump say this to China: you will play by the rules in our country that we have to play by in your country. And that means you can't list your companies on the New York Stock Exchange unless we can list our companies on the Chinese Stock Exchange. And it also means that you can't buy or invest in American companies until we can buy and invest in Chinese companies without government approval or government interference.
Very interesting. President Trump on that rally last night was talking about this, how he would deal with China. Very interesting ideas there. Just listen to this from Mississippi.
We racked up $4.5 trillion in trade deficits with China since they entered the WTO, that's the World Trade Organization, which, other than NAFTA, is probably the worst trade deal any country has ever entered. And we entered it, and that's what built China into the power. But now we're the big power. We're far more powerful, and that's the way we're going to keep it.
That from Mississippi, as I mentioned. Carly Fiorina's got a new podcast out that she mentioned as well. It's called By Example, and it debuts today, and that's part of the reason why you're joining us today. And if we've reestablished a signal with you, go ahead and give a pitch for that podcast. Okay?
I can tell you a little bit about that podcast because there's a lot of interest in it. Yeah. And because she is a pioneer in her field, and as I mentioned, one of the first female CEOs of a big Fortune company, Fortune top 20 company, she is sitting down in this new podcast, By Example, and talking to leaders of all industries. And it's really actually a fascinating idea. And for Carly Fiorina to be conducting those interviews should really be something.
It's interesting to hear from her again because she's been somewhat quiet publicly anyway, you know, going back to the election of 2016. But when she came on that stage in Cleveland, I remember because Martha and I were sitting there and they came out, a group of 7. We had the first debate before the big debate that night. And Carly Fiorina got a lot of attention, and she quickly moved up the ladder for that election. So now she's out there yet again, so we hope to get her back.
And we thank her for coming on the program. Hope to get her back.
Check it out. Okay, By Example is the podcast. And the